It's time for MacBreak Weekly. You may remember Sunday I poured water into this fine MacBook Air. Today we'll turn it on and see if it works. Andy Yanako will make a recommendation for the best way to dry these things out, and we'll talk about what to expect on September 10th. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 365, recorded August 27th, 2013. Andy's Fish Ladder. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by PDFPen 6, the powerful all-purpose PDF editing tool from Smile. You can add signatures, make changes, correct typos, fill out forms, and more. And with version 6, you can even export your PDFs to Microsoft Word format. Learn more at smilesoftware.com/MacBreak. And by Shutterstock.com, with over 26 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips. Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use the offer code MacBreak8. And by GoToMeeting with HD Faces from Citrix, the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate with coworkers and clients anywhere. You can share the same screen and see each other face-to-face with HD video conferencing, even from an iPad. Sign up for your 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free button, use the promo code MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Macintosh and Apple news. And it's going to be a little slow for the next couple of weeks as we wait with bated breath. Does that mean you have fish bait on your breath, or is it? I don't know what it means. Andy Yanako is here from the Chicago Sun-Times. He has a torrent behind him.
I'm not torrenting. No, that's I purchased Boardwalk Empire legally. Episode by episode.
Yeah, is that a? Well, I'll ask you about it in a second. Also, Renee Ritchie from imore.com. He has us behind him.
I do. That was my grand attempt at sharing.
Aw, aren't you sweet? And the reason I have a fire extinguisher on my table here is because you may remember, if you saw Twit on Sunday, I accidentally knocked an entire mug of liquid, about 6 ounces of water, into the keyboard of this 2013 MacBook Air.
Ouch.
Yeah, that was kind of the word I said. It was close to the word I said. Veronica screamed, leapt into the air with her gear and got it away from it, but there was a big puddle in it. So I turned it off, as recommended. I couldn't pull the battery, but we did. Actually, Burke McQuinn did a great job. He put in a bag of rice. Oh, good. You've got video. Thank God.
Yeah,
you got a bag of rice. There's Ryan Block.
It's still very early.
Yeah.
That's where
Here we go.
Growth is everyone's going to be. I mean,
I had just put a. That's not growth. That's. Yeah, you're all right.
I'm okay.
You're okay. Yeah, you see her leaping.
I spilled my water on my laptop. Don't mind that.
This is a little. I didn't scream or anything or howl. I was
Cool
calm.
man in a crisis is Leo Laporte.
I was calm. And so we did the rice thing. Now, Andy, I didn't know this, but you had done a scientific test of desiccants.
Well, there's a difference between a scientific test and simply abusing when a phone company lets you have 6 phones with the understanding you're going to destroy them to try different water recovery systems. T-Mobile gave me 6 phones, so I got 5 different urban legends about what to do with a phone when you run it through the wash. So loaded up a pair of pants full of phones, ran through the laundry twice.
Wow.
Kept one as a control, and then tried, I think it was burying it in rice, burying it in desiccant, vodka, which was one, running it through the dishwasher on the dry cycle, and I think the 5th was the 5th was do nothing at all, just not use it. And the only 2 methods that worked were the Fresh Step and the rice.
So you put it in kitty litter.
Right, not just any kitty litter. It's well, yeah. I mean, if you first of all, fresh.
That's not just any kitty litter, Mrs. Jones.
I mean, listen, unless like this was all just deployed to like convince your boss that, oh well, I have to get the new gold iPhone because look what happened. Not only that, my cat peed all over it. What are you going to make me do? Hold this up to my face all the time? But yeah, there's a kind of kitty litter that's actually like desiccant crystals. It's not clay, it's not powder or anything like that. It's those like ice. It's those Breaking Bad looking blue crystals.
Yeah, it's the ones when the cats step on it, it releases odor suppressors.
Right. It's like 100% silicate, and it's
so is that what it is? It's silicate.
It is nothing but the contents of what those little like packets of desiccant are.
It does say it has activated charcoal in it, activated carbon.
Okay.
So it's deodorizing while it's drying.
Exactly. But whatever. There is a kind that is just nothing but desiccant crystals.
Okay. Maybe. So this is a different kind of fresh.
Nothing but silicates.
This is a different kind of fresh step.
Right. That's the kind. So again, you want the blue Breaking Bad crystals.
Oh, it does look a little like Heisenberg made it. I love that. Okay.
And you just seal it up inside a bag so no other air can get in, and so that the crystals or the rice is just pulling moisture out of the device and not out of the air. Leave it for a day or two, and that was the only method that worked.
And the rice worked.
The rice worked. The crystals worked. Actually, I think I also did another one with if you know somebody who uses a hearing aid, there is actually a drying device that they probably have, which is specifically for like drying out a hearing aid, like if it gets all sweated up or if it gets like wet or something like that. That worked great too, but that's like $100 thing, and you probably can't just run to the store in a panic and buy one of those. But you can get rice, you can get Fresh Step.
Well, the bottom line is that happened Sunday. We let it stay for I guess that's 36 hours in the rice. Okay, one negative: do seal the rice into its own thing, because there's little vent holes in the back of the MacBook Air for, that, and they're still rattling a little bit. So some of the rice, a lot of the rice, like about a quarter cup of rice got in the actual inside the laptop. But I think it's all right. Powered it up. It's working fine. No appreciable issues. So there you go. And that was rice. Next time we're buying some Fresh Step. Crystals.
Only you've been using the Pixel, Leo.
I almost did. Yeah, and the problem with the Pixel is it's got issues.
Yes.
With I like the touch screen. I wish Apple would do one of that. But the problem is it's issues with our Blackmagic video card capture. Anyway, enough said. But that's just good news. Also, by the way, that is not just everyday water. That was that Alhambra water. It was from the water delivery guy. So it's high quality water. Probably didn't have a lot of dissolved metals in it. So that's good too.
Also, it shows you how nice it is to have these completely solid state machines. They're so tightly put together to begin with, and if you can take a circuit board, get it just like sopping wet, and if you just simply let it dry out, and there's nothing in there that'll cause metal to corrode.
Right.
It will actually. I mean, there's nothing. There's a very good likelihood that things will work out fine. I did a article early this year. About a camera that I'd found buried in the mud at the bottom of the lagoon in the Boston Public Garden. They drain it once a year so they can do maintenance and stuff like before they open it up for the season. Found a camera buried completely in mud, and was able to get because they have these swan boats that will do a tour of the lagoon. Beautiful things, and of course people are taking pictures, but it just drops off the thing and gets into the water, and pop the memory card out. And the contacts leading to the memory storage package inside that car were corroded and it couldn't work. Wow. But DriveSavers was able to get the pictures off of the memory once they just resoldered those connections. So, and this thing was like buried in mud for 2 years.
That's
the last picture is, of course, a picture taken from off the side of a boat. So I'm guessing that
fell off a boat.
June 2010 was indeed the last time the data was dropped. So it just goes to show you that like electronics. They want to work for you. They hope to work for you. They are pleased to work for you. And if you give them half a chance, they will work.
Somebody in the chat room saying, and I wonder if this is true, that I know the iPhone has a little 3M strip that turns color when moisture hits it. In fact, that happened to me when I dropped my phone in a Liquipel, and the genius took a little flashlight, pen light, and looked into the earbud hole, and he could see it, and it had changed color, so he knew it got wet. Does Apple do the same thing? Yeah, there it is. There's a little red strip that indicates moisture. Does Apple do the same thing with the laptops? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Somebody in the chat room says they do. That'd be interesting. I think it's bad to lie to an Apple genius in general. The more honest you are, the better.
Because remember, they do have the "we're awesome" policy.
Right.
I did a piece last year trying to talking to as many current and former geniuses as I could, and they really do have that power that if you're honest with them, and if you try to take care of your device, they will not. It's not unlikely that they will say, "Okay, you tried, you did your best. You just had a bad accident. We happen to have a couple of extras that we can spend, and we're going to spend one of these on you. Go with God and sin no more."
They're pretty good about that, but what they don't like is if you say, "I don't know what happened. The screen just I woke up and it just stopped working."
I bought this 2 weeks ago. It suddenly stopped working and smelling like Public Garden lagoon water, and now I want to know what you're going to do about
Exactly.
it.
Not the right way to approach it. Exactly. I don't remember if I bought AppleCare Plus on this thing or not. Would Plus?
I walked in with my 4S when it got hit by fireworks, and I just explained, very earnestly that it got hit by fireworks.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's more to that story I'd like to hear.
It was New Year's, and I went to a friend's house, and he was setting off fireworks, and one of them decided to make an attempt for my life. Valiantly, my iPhone 4S jumped in front of me. Yeah, it took it right on the screen, and the olefophobic coating kind of bubbled up, so it felt like sandpaper.
Wow.
Afterwards. And I took it in and I showed it to them, and they said they'd never seen that before. And sometimes that's a benefit when they've never seen it before, because they'll capture it. And they gave me a very stern lecture about taking better care of my stuff. And then they just swapped it out, and I put in my iCloud password, and I left with an identical phone.
I could do without the lecture. It's not your fault somebody shot a firework at you.
If they're going to swap out my phone for nothing, they can lecture me all they want.
I guess you're right.
That's how I felt.
I guess you're right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Did you have a copy of the Bible on there by any chance? Because historically, that's what prevents disaster from actually hitting your person.
Yeah, it was in my pocket. It was that that gold Scotch flask, and it took the bullet for me.
Yeah, you hear that happening.
People, the Bible and a photograph of a piece of the true cross.
Yes,
I love that. I guess there is a way here. If I can get my serial number to see if I purchased. Yeah, there's my serial number. Let me see. I can copy that, and you can go to check your service and support coverage, enter your serial number, and see if you've got AppleCare. Wow, there it is. Yeah, no, valid purchase date, telephone support active. Apparently, I didn't buy. Single hardware repairs, eligible for hardware repairs and service under its limited warranty. It expires June 12th. But I didn't buy AppleCare. But could I get Apple? I could extend coverage now, so maybe I should, just in case. That's cool that you can just enter your serial number and it'll tell you what you got, when you bought it, and all that stuff.
And isn't that a cool thing? Do you remember that the days when we would always recommend to somebody, if you're buying a MacBook or PowerBook, buy the AppleCare. They're not built well; they will break very quickly.
Right. I think I generally don't recommend these because I figure I'll self-insure. These things are pretty reliable. It's got to be a profit center. I don't know about Apple, but
they're a lot more reliable than they were like five or 10 years ago.
Now, do they have AppleCare Plus? That's the question. Isn't that's for the phones, right? You can get a Plus, not for laptops. And the Plus protects you against, like stupid things, like dunking.
Protects you better against stupidity.
Better against stupidity. It'd be $249 to extend my coverage to 3 years. I don't know if is that a good deal? What do you guys suggest? Is that a good deal?
No.
I buy it because if I don't, something bad's going to happen. I just know that karmically. Every time I've refused it, it's exploded or been run over or something bad has happened. So now I just get it de facto.
What about you, Andy? What do you recommend when people ask? Do you say, well, there's the extended warranty and then there's AppleCare, which is, Apple's version of that. Apple may not make money on AppleCare. I don't know.
It's not. I think that if you're spending less than like $80 a year on it, and you expect to get a few years of service out of this, and C, you are the sort of user who keeps moving this device around from room to room, particularly from like office to office. Yeah, I think it pays off. It can pay off in the long run. If you're the sort of person who's essentially using a MacBook as a replacement for your desktop, there's not a whole lot that's going to happen to your device if it spends 7 days out of every 10 just simply on your desk doing nothing.
So your advice is it's situational.
Yeah, it's situational. Again, if you're a daily traveler, that really adds. If you need 10 to acquire 10 points to convince you to buy the extended warranty, being someone who has to carry their machine to and fro every single day, that's at least 4 to 5 points towards that argument.
I'm also the type of person where I'm a complete clumsy oaf, so I look at it like Renee Care Plus. I will drop my phone. No, absolutely. I have dropped a brand new phone on the floor of the Apple Store in front of the Apple Store manager, and he'll just look at me like, I'm standing right here, but you should take better care of your phone. So I know that it's going to be bumped around and dropped and all that stuff, so it's well worth it to me to protect against it's defense against me, basically.
So it's less insurance and more like of an oaf tax.
Yes. I wear that badge proudly, sir.
Oaf tax. Now, here's somebody in the chat room sent us from Ohio State, the Ohio State University. They, I guess, a lot of schools do this. I know Henry's College, where he is now, the famous University of Colorado Boulder, Andy.
Go Buffaloes.
Go Buffs. That they offer, I guess, something called Safeware. A lot of colleges do this. I know CU does. That is better than AppleCare. It's longer. It covers accidental damage. It's probably a little more expensive, right? But earthquake is not covered. But I don't think Ohio is really prone to earthquakes. Cosmetic damage is not covered. So don't spill your makeup on it.
Well, you get over there, you do have to worry about Buckeye damage, though.
Buckeye damage, baby.
I got that letter from my insurance company a couple months ago where it said, we're no longer protecting you against tsunami, acts of terrorism, or responses by the U.S. government to acts of terrorism.
Well, that's the third one. They were trying to bury the lead. That's the important one.
You want to call right back and say, what have you heard?
Yeah, really. If you're hit by a drone strike, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's probably true. Anyway, I think it's been on long enough. I'll put the fire extinguisher away. I never buy AppleCare, but again, I'm the wrong guy to ask because this computer won't be on this desk in 3 years. It won't be on this desk in 3 months, probably.
3 months.
Yeah. So it's
it really depends. I think the biggest factor, like 4 points in that 10-point scale, is what is your own personal experience with devices going bad on you. And if you've been buying Apple products consistently and they've been breaking on you for the past 5 to 8 years, it's not due to the build quality of the device. It's probably due to the way that you handle them or the people in your household handle them. And that's a good factor to say, yeah, it's probably going to be worth the money. For me, I had the same problem that you had. The only problem I've ever had, mechanical problem I've had with any one of my MacBooks in the past 10 years was, yes, a slight beverage spill into the keyboard, and even then, all that happened was the trackpad stopped clicking, and that was it. And so, for me, it's not worth the money. I'd much rather spend that money, being more alert when I'm handling beverages. Or switching to a better brand of less caustic beverage, something with not quite so much phosphoric acid in it.
I have to say, Apples are like Volvos, though. I run these things into the ground. I can't think of a single Mac that I've broken or stopped working. I mean, I hand them down to the next, to my kids or friends or whatever. Or a lot of my MacBooks end up with employees, and they're all working pretty well as far as I know.
They're terrific values. My iMac is a 2007 model iMac, and it's still running the latest version of the operating system. And it's not like I'm running Final Cut 10 on it, so it really still does the job for me. And the time when I replace it is probably going to be the time when I'm doing something on the desktop that requires more memory than the maximum amount of memory I can put in there. Yeah. Because these things are built to last. You can easily expect to get a service life of 5 years out of a Mac.
I'm going on a 3-week trip, and I don't know who's hosting the show when I'm gone. I don't know. It'll be September 17th. I'll be gone through October 8th.
Yeah, we have a list.
A list of people, and I'm sure Andy's one of them.
Yep.
I am hosting. Yes.
We love it when you host. But I'm trying to decide whether to bring my Retina, my last year's Retina, or to bring the Air. The Air is certainly a lot lighter, but I like the screen on the Retina. And I'll be doing a lot of photography. What I do is I bring 2 drives. I have a solid-state drive, 128 gig drive, which was the old Retina's old SSD, upgraded. And then I have another spinning drive, and I back up twice with all my photos. But having a good screen makes a difference. I don't know. I guess this is probably good enough for basic photo editing. I love the Retina.
I hope that you'll be spending more time taking more photos than working on the photos you've taken.
I know. No, I should.
So that's probably the reason why to take the Air.
Proactive. Yes, you're right. Proactively, though, I like to at least go through a few and upload some to SmugMug and stuff, so that if something bad happens, I at least have some of the pictures, right?
That's the reason why my Flickr feed tends to contain like my greatest hits forever is because when I take a great shot, I'm traveling, I'm in another country or whatever, my first impulse when I see that on the back screen of my camera is that I have to upload this to Flickr right away, even if I keep it private, because I'm not going to necessarily have control of all of my computers for the rest of this trip. And if my computer gets stolen and I don't have that once in a lifetime photo, I'm going to be as bummed out as I am about losing $1,500 worth of equipment. I'm going to be triple bummed that my one shot of looking stupid in front of the Great Wall of China has gone forever.
By the way, I want to correct a misapprehension Big Nut Squirrel has in our chat room. Okay, I know that the first day of my departure is the day Grand Theft Auto 5 comes out, but that's a complete coincidence. It is complete coincidence. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, big shift. Maybe the biggest story, I think we're going to look back and might say arguably the biggest story of 2013, the announcement that Steve Ballmer will no longer run Microsoft. I know this is an Apple show, but you cannot deny that the fates of the two companies are intertwined, that Gates and Jobs were the leaders of the tech industry for many decades, Ballmer the successor, Tim Cook across the aisle. We'll talk a little bit about post-Steve Ballmer Microsoft and about Ben Thompson's article, If Steve Ballmer Ran Apple, which I thought is actually quite a provocative article. We'll get your opinions in just a second. Before we do that, though, let's say hi to our good friends at Smile Software. Smile used to be Smile on my Mac. Remember that? They just smile now because they make you smile. And they have a wonderful product, which I use all the time, just updated PDFPen, the all-purpose Mac PDF editor, now in version 6. They added some great features. You can export to Microsoft Word. That's new. They have a completely redesigned interface, which is gorgeous. I love the fact that I can have a library of signatures and initials, because when I'm doing people still send me contracts with PDFs, and I could just use the signature stamp. And it's awesome to sign the documents. You can add text, images, and signatures. With PDFPen, you can even dig deep into the PDF. This is why it's really fantastic. And fix typos, resize and delete images, make changes, fill out forms. It has OCR. I just think it's a fabulous product. PDFPen. You could download a free trial at, and I invite you to use this special URL, smilesoftware.com/MacBreak. Smilesoftware.com/MacBreak. And if you decide to buy $60, it is a wonderful tool, and I highly recommend it. PDFPen. Let me see. I should open a PDF and just show you the interface. I've been signing a lot of documents lately. Let's see if this one opens up. Yeah, there you go. So I love the interface. They've done a great job of giving you video tutorials. Doesn't our friend who does those video tutorials? Let me see. I think it's David Smart. No, it's David Sparks. Cool. Yeah. Does a great job on those. Yeah, Don, I think used to, I don't know, maybe Don does some too. There's some good online help. Once you open the PDF, you have complete and utter access to it, and the library gives you a chance to put in shapes, signatures, all sorts of stuff. They even have I love this, a library of proofreaders' diacritical marks. So if you want to look like you actually blue penciled this thing. Danny, you're an ink-stained wretch. Do people still use these?
No. I think I'm probably part of the last generation who knows what a lead is, L-E-D-E, and who will arrogantly say, no, I did not mean an L-E-A-D paragraph. It is an L-E-D.
Right.
But no, I would say,
do you end
Tango Foxtrot if this got shoved back at me?
Do you end your articles with -30-?
No, it's 3 pound signs, then 30, then 3 pound signs.
I'm sorry, pardon me. Excusez-moi.
Only when I'm showing off. Normally, it's just basically I'm completely out of ideas, and now I'm really hungry for that burrito in my microwave. So goodbye.
What does the 30 mean? I never knew that.
I don't know.
It's lost in the.
I think it has to do with the linotype typesetting. It was something. I know it has something to do with the mechanical typesetters.
It's a funny thing. You save to Evernote now. You can save out as a Microsoft Word document. They've just got so many great features. I love it. PDFPen Pro version 6. Actually, I think I better upgrade. I I mean, this is version 5 I'm showing you. Got to get the new version 6 right now. Try it free at smilesoftware.com/MacBreak or buy it today. PDFPen Pro. We love you, Smile. Mwah. All right. Well, I know this is an Apple show, and I think people are going to get mad at me because I'm going to bring this up. But I do think it is a huge story. Steve Ballmer announced last week that on Friday that he is calling it quits. CEO of Microsoft for a long time, 13 years, 17 years, long. Was it 2000? When did he step up? He did a lot of good for Microsoft. I think he doubled revenue, tripled profits, or is it the other way around? But the stock price, which shouldn't really be a factor. If you're doubling the profits of a company over your time of your tenure, and everybody pointed to, including me, the fact that the stock price, the valuation of the company went from $600 million to $300 million under his tenure. But that's just the stock market.
No pleasing them.
Yeah. But I think it might have something to do, frankly, with Ballmer's departure. I think he was kind of encouraged to leave. The smoking gun on that is Mary Jo Foley from our Windows Weekly show interviewed him that day. And she said, did Bill try to get you to stay? Bill Gates, chairman of the board at Microsoft, and his former Harvard roommate. And Steve said, oh, Bill, this is a personal decision. Bill didn't weigh in. In the past,
open, but he didn't weigh in.
In the past, Bill has staunchly defended his friend. I think that's a little telling. Anything to say about it from an Apple point of view? Is there?
No, I mean that you mentioned that piece earlier that I think is really
techery.
I'm sorry, yeah, that I thought hit every single important point. The only in that the difference between the way that Apple is run and the way that Microsoft has been run is that people at Apple are motivated to do great products, and people at Microsoft, I think, as a corporate culture, are motivated to do things that help that internal corporation thrive and survive. So you really, I think people inside Microsoft, they're very passionate about the things they do, but ultimately in five years from now, what they're hoping to have accomplished is not to have created a great new product, but to have made it to another step in the developmental ladder for their own careers, which sounds bad at the surface of it. But I mean, at some point you have to, at some point you're kind of looking at your own path as opposed to the path of the stuff that you're working on. And I think that's the way that Microsoft is pretty much motivated. The only thing that I would add to it is that I don't think that Microsoft gets enough credit for being really good at really boring things. I mean, we forget that Windows is still absolutely, with beyond a shadow of a doubt, the dominant operating system on the planet. And as much as we make fun, every single time they've updated Windows, we make fun of how horrible it is, and how clumsy it is, and how everybody hates it. But it still remains the operating system that more than 80% of the computers on this planet actually run. And you can make fun of how, oh God, what an ungodly, ghastly user interface design that Microsoft has committed to and recommitted to in Office, putting more ribbons with more toolbars. But Office is still the dominant. It is still the grease that causes the gears of industry and business to continue to turn. So, and those continue to be incredibly profitable businesses for them, and everything that is not facing the user is also incredibly profitable for them. So it's. When he announced his resignation, for some reason it put me in the mind of people complaining about how Jay Leno and David Letterman are not like the angry, dangerous, inventive comedians that they were in 1979, 1982, 1983, when they first became big celebrities. To a certain extent, it's kind of silly for a 65, 66-year-old man to be the person who is trying to be the 2013 version of Lenny Bruce, because at this point, he's delivering a product that people count on and rely on, and that he can count on and he can rely on, and the people who work for him can count on and rely on. Microsoft, I think, is just in that stage of their development where it's really, really difficult for them to, with all the baggage that they have, to bring something to the table that has never really been done before or never been done successfully before. They're at that stage and they're at that age where their job is to watch the iPhone become successful and watch the iPad become successful and let that guide them onto where they need to take all their software and their hardware in the future. Whether or not this is shooting themselves in the foot long term, because We all know that the market for desktop PCs and laptops is shrinking as mobile devices are gaining more market share. That remains to be seen. But much like when people complain about Apple dropping the ball on Maps or producing a phone that's not quite as exciting as it should be, they have enough. They have enough coal in the bunker that they can keep the business going for a great number of years before they really have to have a successful strategy for that. And the fact that they have a new CEO coming in, and not necessarily somebody who's been groomed from within the culture for the past 5 years to take up that role, is a great thing. If they can bring someone in from the outside who can effectively say that, okay, here's exactly the path that we need to take, and it doesn't involve having 3 different organizations with interlocking arrows and circles and lines between them, that could really be the thing that allows Microsoft to finally make that transition, and in 2015, 2016, 2017, make us all wonder, oh, remember that time 10 years ago when Microsoft was doomed, and now they have 53% of the tablet market, and they have 38% of the phone market, and Windows is still on 4 out of every 5 computers out there. Man, goodness, wish I bought Microsoft stock back then instead of someone else's stock.
Yeah, I should point out that Ballmer's my age. He ain't a 65-year-old comedian. He might have a few years left in him, Andrew. But I also thought interesting was in this, by the way, didn't Microsoft start Slate? Didn't they once own Slate? Now it's a Washington Post enterprise, which means Jeff Bezos now owns it. Article in Slate, the poisonous employee ranking system that helps explain Microsoft's decline. They're talking, and they referred back to a Vanity Fair article of last year where they talk about stack ranking, which Dvorak's talked about a couple of times on Twitter. It's just really kind of, to outsiders, an appalling way of choosing employees. What happens is every unit is forced to declare a certain percentage of employees as top performers, a certain percentage as good performers, average, below average, then poor, and the poor performers out the door. So
it's a very Don Draper era sort of corporate structure. I mean, Microsoft really has a Microsoft has always had the opposite of the hippie sort of mentality that Apple has had, and that's certainly, I'm not saying that as a good thing. I'm saying
it's brutal. It's brutal.
It really is. It's IBM, it's Raytheon, it's these big corporate structures, and that's why job number one is to maintain your job for the next 5 years.
That's the problem.
And I hope I didn't make it sound as though I think that people who work at Microsoft don't care about the products they do.
No, they do.
I know so many engineers who talk just as passionately about design and function as anybody I've ever met at Apple. But the thing is that you can't really promote your ideas and your aesthetic if you are not there 3 years from now to be there to be that voice in that development of the new product. So job one is always going to be make sure you have a job in 2 or 3 years. The way that they run that company.
They called it Rankin Yank. And last year,
sounds so bad. I mean, I'd open that brochure if that was handed to me at HR just to see what was inside.
I'd like a Rankin Yank, please. No, I don't think that word does not mean what you think it means. The Seattle Times interviewed Ballmer last month and asked him, "Are you still doing stack ranking?" He says, "I think everybody." He said, "Yes, I think everybody wants to work in a high performance culture where we reward people who are doing fantastic work, and get this, we help people who are having a hard time find something else to do."
But he never got stack ranked. I mean, that was the problem, is that Ballmer
he should have been stack ranked. Yeah.
Well, no, because I mean, if you look at the performance metric, the problem with Microsoft is that they didn't react when things went wrong. They just, like, stack ranking obviously didn't work, and they doubled down on it instead of switching it. And a lot of people have said that Ballmer failed to see trends or failed to have Microsoft react. But in truth, they were ahead of a lot of the trends. They had MSN when the internet was, before Google took over. They had tablet PC before there was an iPad. They had Windows Mobile before there was an iPhone. They just had an absolute inability to make a product that would attain mainstream penetration. And maybe that's because they were enterprise focused. But even then, Google spun on a dime and made Android out. They took it from a BlackBerry to an iPhone in no time flat. 3 or 4 years ago, if Microsoft had put an X phone and X Slate on the market running Halo beautifully, Office beautifully, Exchange, SharePoint, all of that stuff fantastically well, they would have had a killer product. But not only did they not do that, they were unable to see the things that that old Chinese proverb, they did not know what they did not know. And I mean, I'm talking to someone who I loved Microsoft. I had all Microsoft for a long time, and they just stopped making the products I wanted. And I desperately wanted that Bill Gates CES demo future technology stuff, and they just never, ever went back to it.
Yeah. Interesting quote. I would like to know if you agree with it. This is Johnny Ive speaking a year ago. Our goal at Apple, obviously, isn't to make money. Our goal, absolutely, at Apple is to not make money. This may sound a little flippant, but it's the truth. Our goal, and what gets us excited, is to try and make great products. We trust if we're successful, people will like them. And if we are operationally competent, we will make revenue. But we are very clear about our goal. Do you think that Microsoft, I don't think Microsoft could say the same thing. In fact, in Ballmer's farewell, his interview with Mary Jo Foley, he said, I think I've done a very good job for our shareholders. You know, we made a lot of money. That's clearly a mistake to chase the money. In fact, I think any good business, Jeff Bezos would probably say the same thing. We don't look at how much money we want to make. We look at how we can best serve the customer and trust that will do well for us in the long run. But do you think Apple still is that way?
I think the difference with Amazon is that they don't care about how much money they make. They care about what sort of business they can develop for themselves for 5 years from now.
Right.
So they are absolutely profoundly willing to eat it for 3 or 4 years if they're convinced that this will put them in a great position 4 or 5 years from now.
But they are also customer focused, are they not?
They're absolutely customer focused. But I think that Apple is more directly focused on if we make a great product that will engage the consumer, we're not chasing the bucks today, but the bucks will come to us if we pursue that kind of concept for all.
Do what they love, and the money will follow.
And that was one of the parts of Ben Thompson's article I liked so much, when he pointed out that if you spend all your time protecting and maximizing revenue streams, you have no time left to invent new products. So if you think your company is going to die and you think that there's no innovation left and that it's the end of whatever business you do, you can absolutely double down on profit and try to eke out every last bit you can from it. But if you think technology is going to continue beyond the next decade, then it seems like it's incumbent upon you to try to invent the decade after that. And that's where it seems Microsoft kind of fell flat.
Yeah. I think, in my business, in our business, I try to teach our, new people new to the business is, stop worrying about your hair or about what the audience thinks. Start worrying about serving the audience, and the rest will follow, including profit. Your job is to serve the customers, to serve the audience. And if you do that well, you'll be rewarded. Another point that Ben makes in his article, he quotes a piece written by John Kay, said that was titled, "Sometimes the best a company can hope for is death." There's a natural life cycle for businesses. And I don't mean death necessarily go out of business. I mean death to, if you want a creative answer, to the question, what business are we in? And you need to reinvent yourself all the time. Ballmer clearly demonstrated that he was a steward, not a creator, that he was going to, he took over a thriving business and kind of kept it on the same track. And when it came time to change tracks, did not.
Yeah, one of the worst problems you can do is mistake your business for your products, and that's what Apple was good at. They, the Mac was not their business, so they made iPods and they made iPhones, then they made iPads, and they'll make what's next. But for Ballmer, it looked like Windows was his business and not just a product that he would do the next iteration or the next version of.
It really is true, isn't it? It was all about Windows. Yeah. They said that's the mistake that the railroad moguls made. They thought they were in the railroad business, not the transportation business.
Yeah. And the other problem is that when you have a company that thinks of itself as a closed system and a zero-sum game, where if inside Microsoft, if you develop a great new product, that will only take resources away from other products inside the company that are making lots of money. And so that really doesn't lead to the thinking of saying, well, we need to this is a great idea, we should just plain pursue it. I think that Apple has always shown an ability to absolutely shoot itself in the foot and create a product that's going to kill an existing product they already have. In the movie Jobs, we saw that sometimes that's done out of spite when someone creates the Macintosh to kill the Lisa. But in general, though, we've seen an ability to say, I know this is going to make it difficult. The fact that this iPad does so many things that are similar to The MacBook Air means it's going to make it a sort of a confusing. It might make it a slightly confusing choice for people to see a $500 device that will do all the light computing stuff they might want to spend $1,300 for in a MacBook Air, but we don't care because this is a great product and we think it's going to do great things. They killed the Apple II. They killed their desktops, their desktop business by making great notebooks. You can't think of your company as the success of one division will only ever come at the expense and the death of another division. You can only think that the success of any part of the company makes the entire company stronger. And so everything I do has to be the best thing it can possibly be.
It's amazing we got an Xbox. It really is, after the Kin got killed and the Courier got killed.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about Courier. I mean, that really looks like it could have been an incredible device. It looked weird, but Google would have just made it.
Yes,
they would have made 5,000 copies of it and put them out there. And if you want to spend $1,500 for it, great. Here you go, because we really want to see if people will actually use it. The idea of a productivity, a device that's not necessarily for consumption of media, but is also for the transposition of ideas from synaptic misfirings up here to something you can actually put into electrons and actually show people and interact with and work with. That's a hell of an idea. And they had so many interesting interface ideas with Courier too. But I mean, I would love to know the story behind the leaking of that incredibly polished demonstration video. I wonder if it were either exactly that's it right there. Part of me thinks that it was an intentional leak from Microsoft just to say, well, we know we can't release this, but we want to show you what kind of sauce we got going on creatively inside there. But part of me wonders if somebody in that team, seeing that there is only one chance of this product ever taking one step forward at this company, and that's for this video to come out and for people to say, that's a great idea, you should definitely be moving forward on that.
This, in fact, the name at the top of the contacts list, I just noted, had the last name Allard. This was Jay Allard's last product at Microsoft. We know now this wasn't, we thought at the time maybe it was just a concept video, but we know now that they were in fact developing a product which was killed. Jay Allard left almost immediately afterwards. He was one of the visionaries. He created Xbox. It wasn't a good creative environment for people like him. And some people are even raising his name as a potential replacement for Ballmer. You know another name that's coming up? Scott Forstall.
His brother works there.
Well, I'm not sure why you would consider that, except that he can kick ass, right? He's not exactly a guy who makes friends, but he could go in there and do maybe something that needs to be done, which is pull some weeds.
Well, they can go to. I would hate to think about one of the most beautiful user interfaces I've ever seen for mobile, which is the Metro interface on both phones and tablets, and him thinking there's a lot of black space we could use.
So much room for linen.
How about some AstroTurf behind there for the email app, and
okay, I guess Scott's out.
And some Fresh Step crystals behind the web browser.
That's not a bad idea. All right, we're going to take a break. Apple's on an acquisition spree. Last week it was Matcha. Who is it this week? We'll talk about that in just a second. But first, a word from our friends at Shutterstock.com. If you are a blogger, if you make videos, if you need stock photos, illustrations, vectors, video clips, Shutterstock is what you've been looking for your whole darn life. Beautiful stuff and an incredible search tool. I think that's a lot of it. You know, when you have over 28 million stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and videos. When you add 10,000 new a day, the search engine's everything here. 28,778,521 royalty-free stock images. 157,000 new images were added this week alone. And that's just the images. There's also video footage at Shutterstock. 1.2 million of the best royalty-free stock videos. Now, the search engine's great because you can search not only for topics, but for emotions, and you can combine the two. You can search for, you know, happy, I don't know, happy windows. I don't know, happy islands. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, let's put some sunscreen on. I'm sorry, I'm looking at a stock video. Here's the deal. I want you to visit Shutterstock.com. Make a free account. You don't need a credit card. Now you'll be able to make a light box. The light boxes are great because they allow you to save images into a box you can share with friends or colleagues and keep for yourself for inspiration. I find a lot of inspiration at Shutterstock.com. You could choose individual image packs when you decide to buy or get a monthly subscription for the best deal. I have the 25 image a day subscription. That's great for publications. You never run out of images. We share that here at Twit. Whenever we need a blog post without a picture is like bread without salt. It's just you gotta use imagery, and these are great for 30% off your new account when you decide to buy. Please use our offer code MacBreak8, 8 for the 8th month. We're in August. MacBreak8, and you'll get 30% off. So that yearly package is starting to look really good. They have a spectrum tool, which lets you organize by color. Great if you're, as you often are, as designers often are, you're working with a palette. The iPad app, have you tried that? Oh, it's great. Webby Award winning. And they're truly international, all over the world, more than a dozen countries, Germany, China, Italy, Brazil, Belgium, on and on, with multilingual customer service, corporate reps, full-time customer support throughout the week. We are an international show, so we love having a sponsor that is international as well. Shutterstock.com. Make sure you use the offer code MacBreak8 when you decide to buy an image or two. MacBreak8. So, wasn't it last week that Apple bought the Matcha, which was a recommendation engine or something like that for video? This week, they bought another mapping app, Embark, E-M-B-A-R-K. They build free transit apps. This is something Google's done so well with Google Maps, is transit directions. It's not a big team, and it could just be one of those acquire things, hire things. But they've been around for a couple of years. They build apps for Android and iOS. About half a dozen cities, the transit maps for New York, San Francisco, and Chicago. I haven't used them. Apple said, we do not discuss our purpose or plans. So you just have to guess what they're doing. I think they're smart. I think Apple needs to continue to beef up Maps. Maps gotten better and will continue to get better. They didn't buy Waze. That might have been a mistake. Google got them. Anything to say about Embark?
They released Maps was a huge project for them. It sucked out a lot of the time they had to put into iOS 6, and they couldn't do everything. So transit was one of the most glaring omissions when the Maps app came out, and they sort of punted on that and let third parties fill in the gaps. And it's an incredibly hard thing to do because every locality, sometimes every transit authority in a locality has different formats and different regulations, and you have to make deals with all of them, and sometimes they'll share and sometimes they won't, and it's incredibly onerous and time consuming, and they just couldn't do it. And now they're maturing their map product, they're building out their geo team, and it looks like they're finally is the wrong word, but they now have the ability to go out and start looking at these features and considering these features, and maybe they're buying these companies because they have deals in place with a lot of the places that Apple's going to need to collect data from to do transit. But hopefully it means sooner rather than later that little tab will light up and we'll be able to get bus and metro and train and subway directions.
Yeah. Last month, or actually it was last month, the judge, of course, ruled against Apple in the ebooks case. The Department of Justice amended its remedy, its punishment, if you will, on Friday, following a hearing earlier this month, quoting a Steve Jobs email in which Steve said, let's force them to use our force them is the key word here, to use our far superior payment system. He wanted to, quote, retaliate against Amazon for competitive conduct that Apple disapproved of. That's the DOJ speaking. So as a result, they want not only to let Amazon sell stuff directly, right? That's part of the punishment. Let me read the whole thing. They want to change how the App Store sells content, basically. All kinds of digital content, not just ebooks. It wants Apple to abandon any agreements that would increase, fix, or set the price at which ebook retailers or retailers of other forms of content can acquire or sell ebooks or other forms of content. They want Apple to let the would increase, fix, or set the price. This includes music, audio, television, or apps.
Yeah, they want to get rid of the most favored nation clause, which meant that everyone, that Amazon, that the people who were selling stuff couldn't let anyone else out for a higher price.
Got it.
Because the fear was that they would increase it by 30% in the App Store to make up for what Apple charged them, and then no one would buy on the App Store.
Got it. Apple says protested it reasonably leads to concerns regarding what Apple is doing and plans to do in those other content markets like music and television. Not a good time for that to happen. Apple's trying to negotiate deals with TV right now. The DOJ also wants Apple to negotiate with publishers at staggered times rather than all at once. So I guess there can't be any collusion.
Like speed dating.
Jeez. So they've actually set in the proposal, they've set a timetable for when Apple could renegotiate its contracts, which is wild. They also want an external monitor rather than the vigorous in-house antitrust enforcement program the judge suggested. They want somebody outside. The DOJ did that with Microsoft, remember, after their lawsuit against them. They want more than just in-house enforcement. So they're going for the jugular on this one.
Yeah, I wonder at what point is there still room for Apple to negotiate a settlement that's a little bit more toward their liking, rather than simply accept these terms and keep fighting it. I wonder how aggressively the Department of Justice wants this solution, as opposed to simply wanting to inflict some sort of control over the way Apple handles that business. I am 78% ignorant of the legal stuff that's associated with this, but I have to say that I really, really hope that Apple finds some way to accommodate in-app purchases without having to send people out to a website to actually complete a transaction inside a book reader app.
Yeah,
it's nuts. It's very, very. It's one of those rare times when you really want when you have the keynote event where they talk about how they're all customer focused and they're all about improving the experience for our customers. You want to say, why do I have to leave the Kindle app in order to buy a book and then come back to the Kindle app and resync? And it's like, yeah, and the reasons why they do that is exactly as you say, and they make logical sense, but it really is a bad thing for customers. And I just hope there's a way to figure out how to make that work better.
One of the big problems is that with the way the App Store is built, Apple takes 30% off of sales. And the original fear with the stuff like subscription and in-app consumable purchase was that everyone would just put everything to free and then charge you outside the app. So Amazon would make everything free, charge you outside the app, game developers, app developers. And all of a sudden, Apple would be hosting and providing credit card services and delivery and everything entirely for a set of free apps, because it would be so simple to move all commerce outside their borders. So to kind of protect that, they included all of this in that 30%. And the problem is that if you have a middleman business like Amazon or Netflix where you broker content, that's all you make is that 30%. So it reduced the value of their business to nothing. And maybe in the universe that Apple lives in, they would rather be the middleman and not have to deal with Netflix or Amazon. But that's probably not a sustainable model. So you get into all these areas of trouble where you have to go out and it becomes impossible for Apple to maintain, impossible for Amazon to maintain. The interesting thing, though, is that if you've ever dealt with Amazon as an author or publisher originally, or now as an app developer, for example, in the Amazon App Store, they make Apple look like hippies. They'll rewrite your app description. They will change your price on you. They will give away your app for free if they decide to. And that it's hard to phrase this in a way that makes most people understand the traditional practices of publishing. But the theory the DOJ wants is that, Amazon should be able to sell it at a lower price if they want. And people think that's great. I get a lower price, but it makes you wonder about the sustainability of their business.
Well, and then the next thing is the DOJ suing Amazon for dumping.
Yeah, but they're not doing that yet. Like imagine Leo, or Andy and I, if suddenly our publishers could say, yes, we'll pay you whatever we want for that article. That's a freebie. Thanks.
Yeah.
So the publishers really wanted the right to set the price of their books. That was their main thing.
Right. And Apple was doing that, right? That was the whole point of the agency model. We'll take 30%. You charge whatever you want. But this MFN clause, this most favored nation clause, was the real problem, the sticking point, which was, and you can't have a lower price anywhere else.
Yeah. Apple should have competed on experience, said, yes, we're taking 30%, but we'll provide such a fantastic experience that some customers will be happy to buy on iBooks anyway.
Now, somebody in the chat room said, well, how is this consonant with what Johnny Ive said? We're not in it for the money. It sure sounds like they are. But I think you can, even with this, argue that it was about customer experience more than anything else, right?
I think in the larger sense that they can't have they can't create a store that they then have to close down a year and a half from now. And that's how you provide customer service, by keeping your store in business. I do think that there's a middle ground that could be found between these various companies. I don't think this is the only thing that's possible. I think that Apple now that the iBook store, the iTunes store is very much on its feet and has proven track record of not just hosting content but delivering people with credit card numbers who want to buy content to that content. I think they now have the ability to say, well, fine, do you want us to make it harder for those people to do you want to make the flow of money from those customers to your creators more difficult or easier? We can make it easier for you. And just give us a little bit something so that we can all make money together, and just let's find an agreement so that we don't have to hand you the knife that you'll use to slit our throats with.
Speaking of flow, I've been watching this video behind you, and it isn't a loop. Is it live?
No, it's a 5-minute loop.
Oh, okay.
It is a fish ladder at over the Charles River.
I love it. Is that with the 1020? What did you take that with?
No, that's actually with the Moto X.
You're kidding.
Mm-hmm.
That's really. Of course, we're not seeing full quality, but it looks pretty good.
But it is 1080. It's
frame rate's excellent.
Really freaking good.
Yeah.
I had it bolted to the railing, so that was actually kind of like it's a nice static shot.
I just love that.
The compression is good. Yeah, it's one of my standard like sort of. I cannot maintain even 10 cents worth of interest in doing lots of video tests of like phones and cameras. Right. But at some point, if I have time, I will go to this place and just shoot shoot some video just to see, okay, does it look good? Is the color okay? Right. And this time I decided, nope, I think I'll just let this roll for a while.
We don't talk much about video in any of these things, but they're all doing very credible video now.
And the rumor is the Note 3 is going to be 4K, right? And the next Sony.
No. Shiminy. 4K in a phone.
Yeah.
But they're all doing very good 1080p HD, full HD video with high frame rates. In fact, there's so much to spare. A lot of these phones do 60 frames or higher, slow-mo.
No, this is not the right video, but I also shot another 5 minutes of this at 60 frames per second.
It's just great. I'm wondering if do we know anything about iPhone 5S? Is it anything about the video in there? Are they going to update that in any way?
I think it'll get the same
rumor was
benefits.
Higher frame rate.
Yeah. 60 frames is good. It really makes a difference. 1080p 60 is gorgeous.
It'll certainly get whatever benefits that the rest of the camera system gets from improved signal processing. So you can hopefully get better shadows pulled out of detail, better details pull out of shadows, better low light performance.
Right.
You're right that Apple has never really put high marquee new features into the video, apart from making that number from 720 to a higher number, and now increasing the number representing frame rate to a higher number. But they've never. You realize that in all the demonstrations they've given of new phones, I don't think they've ever included a demonstration of how good the video is. Right. They've shown how good iMovie is, and they've shown how good the publishing tools are, but they've never said, "I want you to see how good this is at shooting video. Right. Here is a birthday party. Look how it's all totally illuminated by the birthday candles. Didn't have to have any extra lights, and you can see the smile on everybody's faces." Of course, if they're shooting at 4K, you can get like, what, 5 syllables of happy birthday before it fills up? And happy birthday. Okay, that's it.
Hopefully it's oversampling.
Why 4K in a phone? Well, we'll find out. September 4th, we'll be covering that Samsung announcement. They also supposedly, Samsung is announcing a watch-like device. Mm-hmm. We don't know for sure, but that's the rumor.
But is anybody excited about this?
No. Not me.
Exactly, because we know that I could be eating my own words in a month from now, but what I'm expecting from Samsung is that they have the wherewithal to build a watch, and so they're building a watch. And it will have a decent number of features, but nothing that will get you excited enough to spend $250 for it, or to rethink what your relationship is between you and the data that's on your device and mobile internet. So that's the cost of being Samsung. They will build anything to satisfy anybody, but that means that it's sort of like if there's a movie series where there's 3 installments of this movie every single year, nothing seems as though it's important. They're just throwing the next thing against the wall, and by the time that peels up from the wall and slaps to the floor, there's going to be another thing fired at that wall. So
my prejudice tells me it's going to be Steve Ballmer standing on the CES stage with an HP Slate all over again.
And this just shows the power. Apple still has the power in some ways, because the reason we can say all that is because we're waiting for an iWatch, right? Even though it's 2014, we know there's no way it's this year. Everybody's going to say, well, what? And that's nice, Samsung, but let's see what Apple does, right?
There are a lot of companies that are sort of poised here. Apple is one of them. Google is another one of them. They both have both these companies have interesting ideas on taking information that's relevant to you when you don't want to be staring at a phone and putting it in a form that you can actually use it. So as usual, I expect that Apple is going to come out with something that's brilliant but limited. Google is going to come out with something that is equally brilliant but not as focused. And as usual, I want these two companies to get together and make a baby that I can then strap on my wrist.
Renegade investor Carl Icahn is at it again. Tweeted last week, spoke to Tim. This guy is just evil. This is the worst kind of name dropping. Spoke to Tim, planning dinner in September. Tim believes in buyback. He doesn't. At no point does he say Cook.
Tim Allen.
Yeah. Tim believes in buyback and is doing one. What will be discussed is magnitude. I am Carl Icahn. Carl did apparently buy $1 billion worth of Apple, but his whole interest has nothing to do with watches, TVs, computers, phones, or anything in between. It's all about how much stock you're going to buy back. Mm-hmm. And if you buy $1 billion worth of something and you could talk him into do a buyback, you're going to make a few $100 million. I don't blame him. I'd tweet things like this too. Spoke to Tim. Unbelievable.
Tim Hortons? Is this about like getting Timbits and a crawler?
Yes, he assumes everybody knows what Tim he's talking about.
Well, he moved the stock. I mean,
yeah, he did, but this one did not. I guess it was all in now. Anybody who was really interested has bought the Apple stock.
It's funny. Apple makes a lot of innovative products. Their stock goes nowhere. Microsoft milks all the money out of their products. Their stock goes nowhere.
Flat.
Carl
Icahn tweets.
I should invest in tweets.
Tim Cook leads a quiet revolution. Article by Reuters by Purnima Gupta and Peter Henderson talks about the culture that Tim Cook is instilling at Apple, which is kind of interesting. 2 years into Cook's tenure, this is it. What wasn't the anniversary like this week? He's been running it for 2 years now. He's a nice guy. He's not
plays well with others.
He plays well with others. He works hard.
Returns his library books on time.
People who know him well, the article says, paint a portrait of a thoughtful. I believe they said the word thoughtful, but I pronounced it thoughtful. Data-driven. It's because I'm eating this Jersey fudge. That's what happens. Thoughtful, data-driven executive who knows how to listen and who can be charming and funny in a small group setting. I couldn't care less, really, about his personal skills. In fact, that seems bad to me.
She's painting a picture for you, Leo.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying,
I don't know.
Is that a good thing? I don't know.
This is the sort of fun that we can engage in because we are fans of Apple and we like talking about this culture. I'm always really curious about corporate cultures where at some point there is a legacy of fear in place. Right. Where it can work in some places. I just wonder what ideas never got brought up because somebody did not want to be the jerk who spoke up and stood up to whoever it was who was in a spitting rampage about whatever. And knowing that, well, he or she is really angry and shouting today, but 2 weeks from now, let's just wait this out because he or she may change their mind and say something totally else. So
he's apparently not the micromanager Steve was. That's not Tim's style at all. No more bi-monthly iPhone software meetings. Still, they write, he has a tough side. In meetings, Cook is so calm as to be nearly unreadable, sitting silently with hands clasped in front of himself.
Stroking a long-haired white cat.
Mr. Bibbles or whatever. Any change in the constant rocking of his chair is one sign that subordinates look for when he simply listens.
So maybe I take that back. Maybe the fear comes from the chair and not from the person. Because
Stop rocking.
I don't know, because haven't you ever been in that situation like when you're a kid with your parents where you're like, oh, mom is talking very calmly right now. I wish she just hit me because this is even worse.
He could skewer you with a sentence, one person said. He would say something along the lines of, I don't think that's good enough. And that would be the end of it. And you would just want to crawl into a hole and die. I don't know. This
Power word kill.
Yeah.
It does sound like, to use Dune terminology, that Steve Jobs was more of a Bene Gesserit and Tim Cook was more of a Mentat. He's very data focused in numbers.
Tim Cook the Mentat.
Yeah.
Does he have purple lips?
Quoting the movie or the book? Because the movie was terrible. It's the only movie as a kid I ever walked out on.
Oh, it was terrible.
I remember I walked out of that movie and walked into Tron, so maybe it was sort of a lateral switch.
Wow.
But at least Tron had better effects.
I'm just reading. Reads like one of those Time magazine articles where they act as if they were there in the room, but they're not.
It's a little daft because it has a bunch of Apple is Doom stuff in the beginning and the end, which kind of seemed really out of place.
Right.
Aren't we? I mean, at this point, if we want to know what kind of culture the new CEO is creating, we have a couple of years worth of data now. We don't have to guess and worry. We have to say has Apple created a bunch of really nice products? Yes, they have. Have they been successful? Hell yeah, they have. All right, then.
Yeah, but you could say that about Steve Ballmer too. I mean, the question is coasting or innovating, right? We haven't seen the innovation yet. I'm hoping to.
I don't know. The design of the iPhone 5 and the things they did to make that phone work are pretty damn innovative.
Yeah, but that you could argue was the last Steve Jobs phone.
iOS 7 is a huge deal.
There you go.
That's not. There's nothing trivial about that. I mean, there's nothing Microsofty about how that's another good example. They are lighting a fire to the user experience that people have been building up all the equity of user experience they've been building for the past 5 years to say we are going to confuse the hell out of you in September, and we're going to be doing this at a time when there are so many great Android phones out there running a fantastic version of the Android operating system, leading you perhaps to wonder if I'm going to have to relearn a lot of the things that I used to know how to do on my iPhone. Why not relearn it on a phone that has a larger screen or something, another feature that I like?
I guess the biggest change, and this is kind of the same change you saw at Microsoft from Gates to Ballmer, was to go from the engineer, the technical guy, to the business guy, right? And Steve Jobs, whether he was technical or not, was very involved in the technical details of it all, right? And Cook seems to be more of a business guy, an operations guy.
Well, there was that article, I forget which one, but there was Sheryl Sandberg, I think, from Facebook called Tim Cook for advice on how to be a number two. And he said, I do the stuff that Steve isn't good at or just doesn't want to do. And now, Tim Cook is the number one guy, so there'll be a number two guy, and whether it's Phil Schiller or Johnny Ive or somebody else who does the stuff that Tim Cook is not good at or doesn't want to do. So you have these complementary personalities, and it doesn't have to be always the same type of guy on the top.
No, and in fact, I think that's what happens in any good business, that especially if the business is run by the founder, is that you have to have a number two or a partner who is going to do the stuff you're not good at, whether we wanted to do it or not.
There's that famous story, I forget who said it, but they were watching the iPad be announced, and they said, how did you guys make that? And they said, Steve. And they go, well, how did you make it so cheaply? And they said, Tim.
There you go. Well, and credit to Tim for delegating, because I think you could say that iOS 7 is the Johnny Ive product, right? Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Yeah, it's a gutsy new take on interfaces in a very mass market product, which is not something every company is brave enough to do, like Andy said.
Well, you realize how mass market it is. I was watching the Video Music Awards, the MTV Music Awards. iPhones everywhere, almost exclusively. It has really become I don't know if it's a status symbol or it's just the go-to phone for a huge swath of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, though you can't. I had a great time last Thursday. There was the Cornetto trilogy, that the Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then World's End was playing as a triple feature downtown. And so, as I always do, whenever I'm in a crowd of people, I'm always sort of peeking at what phones people are using. And I will say that not only was that a predominantly iPhone crowd, but also I have never seen so many installations of iOS 7 in one place before in my life, which also impressed me. But this was not necessarily a typical sampling. There is a sampling of people with a lot of class and culture definitely. But that it is interesting that you see them so many of the iPhones in that specific sort of a setting, including like the VMA Awards. And yet, when you go on the subway, when you go to like a street fair,
a lot of Android.
I see not just a lot of Android. I think that the iPhone is certainly. You see a percentage of iPhone that's consistent with the fact that the iPhone is made by one company and Android is made by at least 6 major companies, or excuse me, at least 4 or 5 major companies.
Although I have to say, Microsoft Windows Phone was a huge advertiser on the VMAs, so they're talking Windows Phone. You don't see anybody using Windows Phone.
Well, again, that was another interesting thing where I was at the again. You talk about demographics, and maybe this will be a useful data point that Microsoft can use at Boston Comic-Con. Which attracts like 50,000 people a few weeks ago. I was seeing an unusual number of Nokia Lumia Windows phones.
Interesting. Really?
And they're distinctive. You cannot mistake them for anything other than a Windows phone, both the 925, 928s, and the new 1020s. And I was seeing them certainly not as frequently as an iPhone or an Android phone, but that was the first time where I was really palpably aware that I was in a community of people that were using lots of these phones. So I tucked that one away because isn't that interesting that their message is getting
colors,
through
Andy.
Maybe that's it.
Good. That's where you want the Super AMOLED screen. You really want the colors, the colors on Wonder Woman's tiara to really pop.
Well, okay. So you said that Sheryl Sandberg does the things Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want to do. You said that Tim Cook did the things that Steve Jobs didn't want to do. If you're wondering, what did Steve Ballmer do that Bill Gates didn't want to do? Watch this.
By the way, I believe in winners and losers, and especially the freedom to fail.
Who? Him? Who? Him? Who? Him? Him? Who? Me? No way!
It must be from a Microsoft sales conference. I don't know.
That is kind of funny. Realize that Steve Jobs, they got him into the Ghostbusters rig once, and then he stopped being cool forever.
Thank you, Big Ginge, for passing along.
Developers.
I wish they bury these, and someday I hope that they will release all of the videos Microsoft and Bill Gates made for the various CESs and the sales meetings, because they did a lot of creative, great, funny stuff.
And then there was the Seinfeld stuff.
And then there was churros. But even that would be I would buy the DVD of all of that. They can't because of rights or whatever. But
you should also look for a series of training videos that that Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant did for Microsoft. I think it was for Windows 7 or one release of it was David Brent essentially as a sales consultant, like essentially training people, giving his opinion on what Microsoft should be doing, and with every third question asking if Microsoft was hiring.
Here you go. Here you go.
Better than each one of these was better than 4 episodes of extras.
This is let me go back to the beginning of it. This is called The Office Values.
Thanks. It's not unusual for us to invite down somebody who has built a reputation either in business or in industry and just ask.
Don't think I need an introduction, do I? Oh, yeah.
Well, I think I probably should give you an introduction anyway. If
they know who I am.
Yeah, we're lucky to have with us today.
It's on YouTube. Watch it. In fact, there's a whole series of them, believe it or not. This was in between jobs, probably. One would hope, anyway.
They even had that with the Bruce Springsteen sales for the sales team, an internal video with Bruce Springsteen about selling Vista. I mean, they went all out on those things.
They spent a lot of money. I mean, it's really amazing. Some of the Microsoft stuff I've seen. He used to show them at Comdex and CES, but because of rights, they could never release it. In fact, they would cut it out of the keynotes a lot of the times. They wouldn't. You'd have to be there to see it. Any other stories before we go to our picks of the week? The i7, Clayton Morris, or A7, I should say. Clayton Morris tweets, only 31% faster. Clayton's usually pretty good on these. He's saying benchmarks are not showing a big speed increase, 9 to 5 Mac agreeing. Is that what your sources are telling you, Renee Ritchie?
I heard very similar to Clayton. I heard that it's not about, I mean, previously the 3GS was twice as fast, and then we had the GPUs that were faster. And I heard the focus wasn't as much on speed, but on being more efficient and more advanced. And that probably translates, like Haswell and Mavericks, into battery life, because when you start adding more amazing features, you've got to compensate with battery life, or the phone doesn't last. So I wouldn't be surprised if it had, it's the next generation Swift core, because Apple's doing their own silicon now. If it had a much better image signal processor, because like Andy has said many weeks now, that's really the magic of their camera. And then maybe if they go to Rogue, which is the next generation Power VR graphics chip, you'll get a lot of the type of performance that Apple will need for a device like the iPhone 5S. 64-bit I don't know about, because that's taking bigger bytes, and I'm not sure how much that benefits them compared to the other stuff they could do. Maybe 64-bit graphics, I'm not sure. On a desktop, it let you open really big Photoshop files and edit really big movies.
It gives you more RAM, but these phones, they have a couple of gigs at best.
Yeah, and I don't know if you need to take bigger bytes out of stuff on the phone. And maybe it's 64-bit for the GPU. I'm not sure. But again, the only thing I heard is that more advanced, more efficient, and maybe they'll go rogue with the GPU, which would be interesting. And the thing Andy talks about a lot, which is the image signal processor.
Right.
Clayton also said that there was a companion motion tracking core, which I haven't heard, but sounds very interesting.
And a new slow motion mode capturing 120 frames per second. So that's the answer to that video question. We'll see. We're going to see soon. Anybody get an invitation?
Not yet.
I don't believe anybody's gotten invitations yet.
There was some talk on Twit that perhaps Apple, for the first time with these invitations, would require you not to tell anyone you got an invitation. I don't see how they could do that.
That would be highly unprecedented.
And NDA you on the... Well, I guess they would say, well, we don't want the date to come out, so we're going to give you an invitation, but you cannot tell anybody.
Every tech reporter on Twitter is booking airfare, but you're not going to.
Yeah, I know. It seems like it seems both like something Apple would do and a completely hopeless case.
There are times there are types of meetings that you have with Apple that you are told that this is completely off the record and this meeting never happened.
Yeah.
But inviting 600 people to Yerba Buena Center has never been one of those things. That's 600 people they're really, really certain of.
Right. Well, and frankly, that's why they wait till the week before. They know it's going to leak out, so they don't tell you until, which wreaks havoc on airfare. Have you booked tickets, Andy?
Yes, so I will definitely be there.
Whatever happens,
I will definitely be there I have emailed some contacts at Apple saying that, gosh, for no reason whatsoever, I'm taking I just decided to spontaneously be in San Francisco this week. Hope I get to see you while I'm there, whether it's coffee at the mothership or someplace more centrally located.
Did they send you a little smiley face in the response?
I cannot complain. I cannot say.
Does the smiley face have a...
If you don't answer once, it's yes. If you don't answer twice, it's no.
No, here's the key. Colon or semicolon. That's the key.
Already we've spent like 12 minutes talking about Tim Cook's management style based on hearsay. We can say, ooh, but it's a first initial period last name in this email address, not first initial hyphen last name. Ooh.
9to5 Mac also says Apple will launch an iPhone trade-in program as soon as next month. Maybe somehow tied to the release of a new iPhone. Renee, do you think we're going to get that iPhone how quickly after September 10th? Everybody's saying soon, right? Quick.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they stick to their previous pattern, which they've done for the last couple of years, they moved to the fall in 2011 and 2012. Both years they announced the phone, and then the next Thursday, the general release of the OS came out, and then the Friday after that, the phone did. So if that same pattern applies this year, the event will be on the 10th, iOS 7 will come out on the 18th, and the phone will come out on the 20th.
I'll be in Italy by that time. So I won't be able to bring it with me. I want the gold one.
Unlocked gold Italian iPhone, Leo.
That's what you want, isn't it? Come on.
I'm getting the gold one.
I have a relative who works for Krylon. He can get you some rattle cans. He'll hook you up.
Apple releases developer preview number 6 for Mavericks. So we're getting, I would imagine that also is getting pretty close to, that was a week ago, so I imagine we're getting pretty close to that as well. Do you think that'll come out in October with new hardware?
That usually comes out either the day after an Apple earnings call or to coincide with the launch of a new Mac.
Well,
this
we know
year the Mac Pro depends on it. So
yeah, we know the new Mac Pro is coming out. Have you seen anybody seen the trailer in the movies?
I have.
Oh yeah, it's just like the one they showed at WWDC, right?
I think it's a very. I'm not sure if it's exactly because Apple uploaded it again, so I'm not sure if it's exactly frame for frame the same, but the effect is almost identical.
Yeah. It's good, though, if you were seeing this, here's the trailer from CNET. If you were seeing this in a movie theater, it would look pretty exciting. You might even think, oh, good, there's a new, science fiction movie coming. Maybe a Stanley Kubrick adventure.
It's a Tim Cook
Prometheus
production.
2, no!
Yeah.
Doesn't it? I mean, I'd love seeing that on a big screen. Was it fun?
It actually does look like the canisters in Prometheus with the alien goo.
And I love The Rock. Very heavy
very
metal.
Impressive. I saw it before the Wolverine. They were playing it.
Perfect. Yeah, this is something you'd like to see in a movie theater. But how many of the people in the movie theater are going to buy this? Oh, there's the one little Apple thing. Boom. Ooh, wow. That's pretty good. Didn't give me chills, but it's close.
It's pure branding advertising. And no one in the movie theater would probably buy it. They're probably not even sure what a Mac Pro is.
They don't even know
most
what it
people,
is.
But but they see the Apple logo, they see Mac, and they think that's hella cool, and that's
cool.
good for Apple.
In a world where Apple Pro users have been using the same hardware for 3 years, comes
not innovating anymore.
A new innovation. My ass. That'd be funny. Somebody should do Tim Cook or Phil Schiller flying through the air, 6 guns a-blazing.
That's just ridiculous. Cars 2 was animated almost exclusively on Mac G4s. I know this for a fact.
Is that true? No, really?
No, it's not true at all.
Oh, okay.
I lied.
All right, let's take a break.
Focus on the water, Leo. The trickling water.
Ah, fish. I've been watching for 5 minutes, and not one fish has swum up that fish ladder.
I keep meaning to find out when the breeding season is, because I've been coming here for it's actually only maybe a 10-minute walk away from my usual comic book shop. So I often walk past this hoping to see fish coming up the ladder, but nope.
Is it salmon that are supposed to go up that ladder, or is it tuna fish? What is it?
I don't know.
Probably salmon, right?
There's actually a sign telling you what kind of fish you are not allowed to take out of the Charles River and eat, because it wouldn't be a shame if they spent all this money to build this and you're just waiting there at the top to grab fish from the top there.
Trout? Is it trout? I don't know.
I believe whatever it is speckled. I'm getting the words. I'm seeing the word speckled.
Yeah, it's not salmon. It must be speckled trout.
Could be.
I don't know.
Nice white fish, maybe.
A nice, delicious fish going upstream.
I have never been in Waltham and turned that corner and saw a bear staring at the top of their
That's what that spike is for.
Maybe it's
the squirrel is gingerly touching the spike. We're going to take a break. Come back with your picks of the week. Mr. Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times. Mr. Rene Ritchie from imore.com. Our show today brought to you by our good buddies at Citrix, who do go-to-meeting with HD faces. I know it's, one of those things nowadays with everybody spread out all over the place, and even here, it's a real challenge to have meetings. But meetings are so important. It's where minds come together to cut through the stuff that slows you down and get to the good stuff, the creative stuff. It is so important to solve problems and share ideas, and that's why we use GoToMeeting. With teams spread out all over the places, GoToMeeting means you're all on the same screen because you're literally sharing screens with one another, Mac or PC or iPhone, iPad. You also get to see each other because HD Faces means you're actually seeing high-quality, crystal-clear video of meeting attendees. It really is a powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate online. No matter where you're located, you can even present from an iPad, which is pretty darn cool, I got to say. I want you to try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. The apps are free on your iPhone, your iPad, your Android device. And GoToMeeting itself will be free for the first 30 days when you use the promo code MacBreak. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free button. The promo code is MacBreak. GoToMeeting. Even when we just do conference calls nowadays, we use GoToMeeting because you never know. You might want to turn on the camera, turn on the screen sharing, and share with one another. And you do get the Conference Bridge as part of the GoToMeeting subscription. GoToMeeting.com. Good news if you're using, it's not my pick, but if you've got a Chrome, if you're lucky enough to have a Chromecast, Google has released a Chromecast app now for iOS, which means you can configure your Chromecast from your iPhone or your iPad. You've been able to use it with them, but you'd had to use an Android device or a computer to configure in the past. Andy Yanako, your pick of the week.
Mine is a really simple app called PDFPen. It is it is an art app that is sort of like the ResEdit times 2013. It's fun. I like doing art. I don't. If you give me a 300 DPI Photoshop canvas or manga artist canvas, I don't know what to do with it. But if you give me, here is 256 by 256 pixels and tools in which to take colored blocks and put them inside there and make something pretty, that's a good way for me to kill 35 minutes and take a break at my desk without leaving the tool with which I need to finish the project I need to work on right now. It's $10. And surprisingly, a lot of fun.
It looks like fun, actually. Yeah,
because it will manage color palettes for you. It gives you like cut and paste and move tools and reflect tools that make sense for this type of artwork. And it really is. It is the most. It's a truly meditative form of art, and I mean that. I mean that sincerely. That you really. It's like. It's like being in a meditation garden with the sand and just sort of pulling that rake behind you and trying to make concentric circles where you are trying to make something that's pretty, but it is a contemplative act of simply placing blocks, saying, no, that is not where that block was meant to be. I shall remove that block and replace it with a block that is intended to be there. Yes, that is the block that is intended to be there. I have produced harmony between that pixel and that pixel there. Now I move on to the next pixel. It's $10, which is expensive by certain standards, considering what it does. But I've been enjoying it a lot, and it's something that I kind of forgot I liked doing until I was going through just ancient hard drives with backup images, and I would see like all the icons, the custom icons I used to build in ResEdit, and then I started thinking, gee, that may be fun to do again, and now it's fun to do again.
Awesome. What is it? Pix?
It's
PDFPen.
It's PDFPen.
Pixel with an N. PIXEN.
There's demo apps at demos of it at PDFPen. It's on the App Store, but you can get it at or get demos at pixenapp.com, or rather. Look at demos, not download a demo. But it used to be downloadable from that place, but now it's an App Store thing. It's supported by actual dollars.
PDFPen. Mr. Rene Ritchie, your pick of the week.
I have two picks this week. One is software, one is hardware. The software one is Read Quick, which is an app made by Clayton Morris we spoke about earlier. It just came out for the iPhone, and it had been on the iPad for a while, and he was kind of hesitant to put it on the iPhone because the iPad has this reputation for being a great reading device. But it turns out an app designed to help you read quickly and to let you read things quickly is a great fit for the iPhone, because if you're out and about, standing in line, waiting in the car, or doing any of a million other interstitial things, the ability to get through content quickly is really amazing. Now, it's not that glass of scotch you want to savor or that music you want to listen to. It's for information going into your brain. So it's pure data-driven reading. But for that kind of stuff, I started using it on the iPad, and I still do. But on the iPhone now, I'm finding it really enjoyable, especially just for focused, quick reading. And the hardware pick is something near and dear to both Leo and my heart, and that is they were announced a while ago, but now they have, at least in my Apple Store, the Bloom light bulbs available for the Hue system.
What is that?
These are the big light bulbs, and I've got two of them here just working as floodlights, so I'll hold one up.
Do they fit the same socket, or these are for the bigger sockets?
They're not sockets. They are self-contained. All you do is plug them in. And then they sit on whatever flat surface you have. They're color only, but you can max out the color and they look white. So you don't get the light dark slider on the left. You just get the color slider. But they work just like a Hue. I have two of them sitting here. You put them down, you connect to them via Wi-Fi, and then using the existing Hue app, you can just have them do magic, or Amplify. You can have them dance to your music. And they have strip lights too, so you can put them on stairs or above cabinets. And I have now 12 of the regular hues and 3 of these.
We have a problem. We have a hue problem.
Leo, if this is a problem, I do not want a solution.
I think
so much fun.
The strip lights are cool.
It's fantastic, and they all just work together.
Oh my God!
I don't know if there is a limit to how many you can have on a single bridge, but
I think there's a technical limit, but it's not. It's pretty high, 64 or 128, something like that.
I want all of
how
them.
much? How much are the blooms?
The blooms, at least Canadian, they were $80. So I don't know how much.
Yeah, it is $80 at Apple, $59.94 at Amazon. So same price as the other hue bulbs.
And they're LED, so presumably they last for a long time. And if you're in a big room or just like your living room and you watch movies in, it's fantastic for ambiance. I've joked about this before, but I can watch Star Wars while my room looks like Tatooine. It's fantastic.
And the light strip, 6 feet, $90.
Yeah.
No Amazon price on that yet. Oh, man. I'm going to have a disco in my house.
And everyone's invited.
I didn't know they were going to do that. That is really cool. That is really cool. We're Hue fans, and I think until you experience Hue, you shouldn't mock us. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Just join us.
Join us. Don't mock us.
It's nicer on this side.
Don't mock us. If you played BioShock Infinite, which was my game of the year this year, good news for you. If you haven't played the original BioShocks, Apple, the App Store now has BioShock 1 and 2 at half off, $10. So that's a good deal now through September 3rd. For each, $10 each. You can't get both of them for $10, but $10 for BioShock 1. If you didn't play BioShock 1, you really should. One of the great games of all time. BioShock 2, you flip it, and you take the roles of the Big Daddy. You get to play Big Daddy. And BioShock Infinite is still one of my favorite games. But if you haven't played BioShock, now you can do it for cheaper, half price, on the App Store. That's it for this edition of MacBreak Weekly. Renee Ritchie is at iMore. Will you come to the Bay Area sometime in the first or second week of September?
I will be there regardless. I don't typically get invited to Apple events, but I will be there regardless because it's just too much fun to miss out.
I'll have a seat for you. If you don't want to just sit outside Yerba Buena Center, you can just come up here.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
We'll have a little
and Leo,
seat at the table.
Last week we talked about the Jobs movie skipping out on Next. So we had the pleasure to have Will Shipley on Debug last week, and he spent about 2 hours talking about his early career at working with Next Technology and at the Omni Group.
Will Shipley is the guy behind Delicious Library, right?
Yep. And coming up next week, we have Ryan Nielsen, who does Hype now, but was formerly the product manager for OS X, and he spent about an hour talking about product managing OS X. So if you missed out on your Jobs fix of real technology stuff, there's...
And you just go to imore.com and you'll find the podcast there.
imore.com/debug.
DEBUG. Hey, cool. I'll be listening to that. Somebody in the chat rooms. Trot says, Will Shipley's no Ashton Kutcher. That's why we like him.
He has a range of expression.
He can do more than smirk. He can code. Andy Anako's at the Chicago Sun-Times, where that 1020 review is going to emerge any day now. I don't know.
I got 3 hours of sleep last night because I'm sorry. Their time. I'm sorry. I will wrap this up at Will Ship. It's just that I really like this camera, which meant that I had to be really when you're saying things that are extreme and superlative, you want to be able to have the arrogance of which, if someone says, "Oh my God, is that over the top?" where I can say, "Screw you, I'm right, you're wrong.
It's true.
You will not argue with me, or you can argue with me, but my energy for prosecuting my point of view far exceeds your desire to argue with me on this point." It's an awesome camera.
This is why we love Andy. He does slow writing.
I know. But yeah, perhaps it should ship sometime tomorrow.
Keep your eye peeled. Suntimes.com.
Something less than a month, I think.
No, I'm glad. And I've been waiting to read it. That's why I'm aware of it. I'm still trying to decide. Moto X, 1020, iPhone 5S. There's some choices here. Note 3.
It's a really cool time to be a consumer of mobile technology. It really is.
Yeah, all of the innovation that was happening on the desktop and the laptop has now completely been replaced by mobile. And it's great. It's exciting.
Can't wait for the watch revolution.
I think a couple of weeks ago, someone gave me the best compliment in my life, saying that I was the Stephen Fry of technology writers. But I have to admit, with the amount of time it takes me to get some things done, I'm more like the Fran Lebowitz.
Either one would be fine. Andy and his fish ladder, thank you for being here. Thank you, Renee. Thank you all for joining us who do Mac Break Weekly on Tuesdays. First show of the week for me, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. 1800 UTC on twit.tv. We'd love it if you stop by either live, watch, or come to the studio. We have some great people in the audience. Thank you for being here this week. You can email tickets at twit.tv. Let us know. We'll put a chair out for you. But if you can't do either of those, you can always download it after the fact. We make on-demand audio and video available at twit.tv/MBW for MacBreak Weekly, or wherever you download your internet broadcasts. iTunes is a good start, but there's lots of other ways to do it. Instacast, Pocket Cast, Dog Catcher, Pocket Catcher Cast, Dog, whatever it is. Get us. Listen to us each and every week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Now get back to work, because break time is over.